Mr. Speaker, the government of Jamaica started taking steps to protect the Cockpit Country by first declaring the Cockpit Country Forest Reserve almost 7 decades ago. Mr. Speaker, we have not done enough since then, and we cannot afford to wait any longer. Mr. Speaker, the objectives in defining the boundary is to ensure forest conservation, protection of biodiversity, preservation and improvement of traditional livelihoods, and the creation of new economic opportunities for heritage, health and wellness tourism and ecotourism.
I have been hearing about boundaries. From the day I was born, I know that the Lord created the earth, and I don't think He created any boundaries. So I want to ask the question to Mr. Prime Minister, where do he comes up with the government and whole? Where do they come with boundaries? Where these boundaries come from?
Discussion started first in late 2006, and then in 2007 the then Ministry of Agriculture Mining gave out a contract for the geology section of the University of West Indies. I think his professor, Simon Miller, I think his name was. And they did the study. And then they identified what persons classified as different boundaries, and the university also came up with a boundary. So that ended up, we had 7 boundaries at that point. That was presented to the government at the time, and they said, okay, from that we need to look at it, look at the report, and then go out and do another study to get stakeholder input across the island. And that was done in 2012, 2013, and that report then came out with recommendations for 3 different boundaries: inner, transition and outer. And then another boundary was also identified, the one from Dr. Paris Louis Jr. So that went on ice probably 2010, 11, 13, and then 2015. New administration came in, so the discussion started in 2016 again, and by 2017 it was agreed that this would be the boundary of the area to be protected as a Cockpit Country.
In 2005, Dr. Paris Liawi, one of our foremost geologists, did his PhD study on the Cockpit Country, and it was agreed that of the boundaries that were considered before, that this boundary would be the most accurate boundary to date.
What's happening now is, having identified what the boundary should be, the Forestry Department was then mandated to go out on the ground and do what we call ground truthing. It doesn't come in quotes, it's an actual activity. They will go out on the ground with the instruments, mainly the GPS and other instruments, and then walk the area. And as they walk, they get the coordinates. And then every 200 meters, or in some cases 100 meters, you would then put down a temporary marker. That has to be verified by the National Land Agency. We then put in the permanent markers. Now the permanent markers are cylindrical poles. We paint them a bright yellow so everybody can see them, with a steel bar going down and a steel plate at the top. And the steel plate tells you that this is the area of the Cockpit Country area, and when it was done, and it's funded by the EU, and it's been done by the Forest Department.
Why, stepping back a little, is it important to do the ground truthing at all?
Because if we don't do the ground truthing, everybody will say where the boundary is. Because right now the only thing we know is that there will be no mining within the boundary.
And that question of mining is actually one of the central points there in terms of needing to do the ground truthing as well.
Yes, because it tells you where no mining will take place. So if you might have your private land, and a bauxite company come to you and said, I need to buy your land because I'm interested in getting bauxite here. You can't sell them or give them your land for them to mine, because they won't get permit to do the mining.
Why can't you have mining in certain areas and protection of other areas? Why are they inconsistent? Why those ideas inconsistent? You Dixon first.
27% of Jamaica's island has bauxite deposits, and the last 60 years we've mined out, critically, I would easily say about 3/4 of it. It's a non-renewable resource, so it's finishing. It has been finished in St. Catherine, Clarendon, for the most part. St. Anne is finished, and they're now coming over into Trelawney. What's left is in the Cockpit Country, and all the mining leases that are left in the Cockpit Country. We have to decide as a nation, do you take out the very last iota of bauxite and then we start to think about what happens to us after? Or we begin from now? The point to all Jamaicans, do you decide to give them the opportunity to take out the rest of it and then we start what we've done?
Dr. Smith, same question to you there. Is there a sustainable development? That's a phrase we hear thrown around a lot. Is there a sustainable way of achieving both, balancing the two interests?
You can't really sustainably manage a finite resource. So, if you're looking at mining, what you do is, if you want to be as sustainable as possible, is you sort of eke it out for as long as you possibly can. However, it's a finite resource, so you can't replace it. The more you use, the less you have. So basically, at some point, we have to come to the point where the country says, well, okay, if all our bauxite is left in a couple of places, well, we've said we're not going to mine Cockpit Country. Well, let's make sure we won't ever do that. And if there are bauxite left in a couple of other places, sure, maybe if those places do not have a high cost to them in terms of mining, then we can mine them. But at some point, we have to face the reality that we will run out of a non-renewable resource. One of the problems that not just Jamaica, but many countries have had, is that they don't look to what will come at the end. There will come a day when we can no longer mine. We need to make sure that we don't sacrifice the good for the feeling that we're going to make money. So we need to come to a rational, evidence-based, this is how long it will last and this is what we will do afterwards.
Instead of having a boundary outside, they're really going to mine a part of the Cockpit Country. And I don't believe that that should be done, because this area, especially in Stewartown here, we benefit a lot from there. We have farmers who farm in that area over Manchester. We have the birds. I tell you, where I live near to the crossroads, the birds come across from around that end, and it is just a miracle when you see the number of parrots that are over that hillside.
Our children would like to know those birds, and some of them don't even know it. The young people coming up, they would like to know it, don't they? They would like to know it.
Which one of them? They're not generation now.
No. That is yours.
Are the white people name?
No.
Are the white, only white?
You have children who would like to know what is going on.
Panel, audience, good evening everyone. As it relates to the environmental effects in mining the Cockpit Country, most of the arguments raised today are in defense of our keynote species. So the question I pose today is, how can we ensure that no keynote species are in these designated mining areas?
When you remove one animal, you don't know what impact it will have on the environment. Because, for example, a lot of Jamaicans might sometimes tell me, Damien, I don't like bats. The Cockpit Country have a number of caves, and you find a number of bat species. The bats take out a lot of the insects, like mosquitoes that we hear having dengue problems and that. The bats come out night time and feed on it. The soursop that we like, the bat pollinate it. So a number of these animals have uses that we don't know about, that I would say the general population don't know about, and sometimes we have done a bad job of letting people know. But all of these animals have a role to play, or a part to play. So when you said, oh, one bird, one this, it is when it's missing now we find out, oh, it might be an. Well, what I would tell people making the argument for the boundary. So I'm a terrestrial biologist, and when you are, would say, designing a boundary, you have to look at the different, well, I should say, variables we have. So for example, like the swallowtail butterfly that I'm talking about, its whole survival depends on its food plant, which is a water maho. So wherever the water mahos are, you'd have to have that in your boundary. So you'd have to have a boundary where we can find these birds, where we can find these endemic crabs, where we find the plants. All of this has to be overlaid to create the boundaries. It is not like you can just come out and just draw a line and say that. You have to go out there and do the work and know what resources are out there. So my advice to all the people who are putting boundaries, I would say don't build a boundary on heart, I would say build a boundary on facts. So if we know that here have, for example, a cave and it have the endemic bats and stuff like that, you don't only have to protect the cave, but you have to protect where the bats feed. On the other hand, I believe we all need to be honest on what's out there. So for example, if you know an area is degraded, you have to just be honest with what's there.
We love the environment. I know one is not protecting the environment today. I notice that's the trees, they try to destroy the trees. They try for anything in the environment, they try to destroy. And I feel that for myself about the Cockpit Country. If they destroy the Cockpit Country, we're going to have a disaster.
You can't just go and pursue economic growth and then fix the environment later. And this has been said at a recent report that was tabled at the United Nations in September. Many countries have done that. Jamaica can't afford to, because we're a small island and we only have a few resources. Two of those resources, the Cockpit Country and the Blue Mountains, are so important that they are part of a worldwide study which said these are the 200 most important places in the world for plants. Cockpit Country and Blue Mountains was on that list of 200. Which means that if you guys are protecting the Cockpit Country, you have a very important responsibility, not just to protect it for your own livelihoods, but also for the rest of the world. Because there are plenty of things found in the Cockpit Country that are not found anywhere else on the planet.
The water that we are now getting in our community is from a spring. And that is our main source of water, the river and the spring. So let us talk about mining begin then in the cockpit, where our major water supplies, the major water supply system comes from. What would happen? It's not like we are living in Kingston, where in Kingston you have big reservoirs. In the country here, we don't have anything like that. I just river and spring. And start mining, that is going to damage all of that.
Remember, you know, at the end of the day, Mona Reservoir, if nothing else is used, and only Mona Reservoir is used for Kingston, you know. And if all the other sources are shut down and come to Kingston, I don't think that the Mona Reservoir would last a month. You know, so it's a fantastic amount of water, but in Kingston we have a fantastic demand for water. It's roughly 50 to 60 million gallons a day. The Mona Reservoir is roughly 800 million gallons. To put it simply, I would say that the water that's generated out of the Cockpit Country, the surface water, to feed into the Mona Reservoir, let us say we were taking rivers from the Cockpit Country and transporting them all the way across to Mona. I would think that we probably have to build about 34 more, so that, about 30 more, so that we could then hold all that water over a year. In terms of mining, the actual extraction of ore, we really don't have this. We have not recognized any big issue with the extraction of ore. For the matter that's quite topical now. This is my understanding, and I've got it on good source that what that particular company does is they ship all of their ore out of Jamaica for processing elsewhere. So the matter of mining the ore, as I said, we don't have any evidence that it is a problem. So if what they're doing is mining the ore and shipping it out, then you know that we don't see the issue the processing issue has been transferred elsewhere?
Well, they will say they're not mining, but you know, we don't know what the government will do. In tomorrow you hear that they mine it. Right? You hear that they mine it, you wonder how everybody just keep a title for everything. For you see today, if government said don't do a thing, government go behind and they do what they feel to do. But you see, money is just money.
Because I've been seeing vehicles going around, passing the police station and going around. I said, what is happening around there? We don't know where these people come from, and I've been seeing them going around there. So there must be something that they're looking for around there.
And we can't believe because nobody from the government has come to speak with us to see what is their position on whether to mine or not to mine. So we have to continue the war against low mining in the Cockpit Country. We have to take the war to them. We think about our water table. Not to get messed up. Our beautiful Dornoch River.
Have you been down to Dornoch? Oh man, you're missing something.
You haven't heard about the famous Dornoch River? No, we don't want them to come and to pollute our river here.
Despite anything, scientists haven't figured out a substitute for water. And I know all of you can relate to water in one way or another. But because of the way we tend to relate to natural resources, I think that maybe, even though we recognize that people in this church are on the front line of protecting and managing the water in the Cockpit Country, maybe you sometimes feel that you're the only people who are there on the front line and the only people who are interested in the water of the Cockpit Country. So I just want you to remind yourselves that pretty much every hotel in Montego Bay gets its water either from Great River or Montego River. That comes out of the Cockpit Country. The hotels that are in Falmouth, the rafting on the Martha Brae, that water comes from the Cockpit Country. The hydroelectric plant that the JPSCO runs from Rio Bueno's water comes from where? Okay, so what does that mean? That means that JPSCO is your ally. JPSCO has a very strong interest in making sure that the water resources from the Cockpit Country continue to flow and continue to flow in the way that they've flowed for many, many years so they can sell electricity to their clients. And those people who use the electricity also have an interest in making sure that the water continues to flow. You may also want to remind Appleton, and I'm sure they're fully aware, that the water that comes out of the Black River comes from the Cockpit Country. The people who run YS Falls, the fishermen who fish at the bottom end of Black River, who fish all the way up and catch shrimp in middle quarters and sell, that water comes from Cockpit Country. So Cockpit Country is not just, even though you guys are extremely important, not just about those of you who are farming here and managing here and living here and have been living here for many years. You have an awful lot of other people worldwide who are interested in the animals and plants here, but also throughout Western Jamaica, whose livelihoods depend on the resources and the landscape which you manage and protect. So if you are concerned about the water, remember that they are concerned too and should be your allies. They have an interest in the water as well.
For this area, our young people are migrating and we need to see some social intervention for young people.
Coming with some skills training.
Skills training.
Yeah, centers.
And
have what about the days when community centers were a part of community? So we need something like that so our young people can stay and build our community.
Yeah. The young people them get some good work that they can come off of the street. Them, build a place where they can get something to do, take off the idlers off the street.
A better development, better
country. Farm district, let me tell you the same thing, because I was living in farm and I have to leave. I have nowhere to do farming. I depend on farming to take care of my kids. And it's a no-no from the Naranda company come in. They take out every dirt. You have nowhere to farm. Leaves the stone, tree. Nowhere to do no farming.
Attractions, putting up attractions as it regards to the resources, areas, building on the resources. Yeah. So in the end, it will grow, the development will become better, and it will in the end be better for the country as the resources will further
something like a mini hope zoo, not necessarily hope zoo, but where we can come and view the trees instead of overtaking the natural part of Jamaica, like try to build on it, and you still will gain income, so it won't be a problem. And just be for the environment.
If possible, industries. There is a community center here. It is in a bad state. Years ago it was utilized with craft and mechanics and upholstery and even woodwork, capital joineries. Well serviced and was in place, and people usually take their products to the Falmouth to sell and all of that. Really it was working well there. The center is down. That's another thing we would hope that the government could look at refurbishing that center, a community center. Some of the activities that we are now doing when we have visits in the community would have been taking place at the community center.
No, we don't want no backside to come out of there. We don't want no backside to come out of there. I have to realize the family school of farming now. We don't know more you say, we don't know factory. Nothing. I just farming really bad. Nobody has not to depend on government employment. I just farming people build their house and do their thing.
This country is not for wellness, you know. It's our own. Maroon. Maroon. The Queen gives the maroon here, so. The inheritance of the people that fight in 1914 war. Benefit. For what they do. To save their country. And the pride we from it. They are wicked. And then it's trying to deprive me from it.
Alright.
So what should I do then? What should I do?